Right then, good morning to everybody. This will be a sort of part two to the open the basket thing that I did the other day. There were two, to start with, there were two very nice locomotives in it. One of them was the Class 29 and the other one is the Great Western St David up at the back there, which we'll come to later. This one is actually my Class 29 that I had already, which has already been modified with DCC, and it's also got what's called a Stay Alive in it, which we'll come to in a second. However, I had done this before. As you can see, this one is already open. The basket the basket case, and I've already put this is the second decoder I've tried in it, but I don't like it. It's jerky. It's not good. It's always quite difficult with these Ringfield motors to update them to DCC because of the fact that the pickups on the bottom here are split between the two bogies. They've got two rubber tyres on here, and of course these two wheels pick up that side of the track. Unfortunately, on the other end it's picked up from the other side of the track, these ones doing nothing, which means if you go over points and things and these two wheels happen to just stall out, or the other two, then it will just stop, DCC or not. And DCC of course requires a nice clean pickup rather than 12 volts direct, because it's transmitting digital data, and if that data stops then the thing is going to hiccup, and it's even worse with sound cards of course because it goes haywire. So I'm thinking, well, I'll have to put one of these in it, which is a little bit more recent pickup, and it's got these two output wires for what's called a Stay Alive. Now at this point I will say, I'll stop this for a minute, and I will say I've done a lot of work to these two locomotives actually already, if I come back out of there, to the St David and this one, the Class 29. Unfortunately, the other day I didn't notice, but one of my camera's SD cards failed, and it was doing all sorts of weird things while still indicating that we were recording. So unfortunately I lost a lot of footage, and also a lot of the film clips were broken in half or stuttered and this, that and the other. I've still got them, some of them, or a bit of it, but not very much. So I'm going to start again. That's why I'm doing this in this way, and I'll try and show some of the bits that I did do in the final editing for this one. So sorry about that, I lost a lot of stuff. Anyway, going back to decoders and Stay Alives. That is my homemade Stay Alive. I quite like doing them myself because they are 12–15 pounds a shot. Here's one, for example, that's a store-bought one, if you will. It does work. It's obviously on a circuit board. If I can hold it straight, there's a square block in there is the equivalent of these things. I haven't measured it to find out what sort of capacity it's got, but it is a store-bought one. And so I actually make my own out of, I've got another box here, these little devils. That is what's called a supercapacitor. This particular one is 0.33 of a farad, not microfarads, not millifarads, but actual farads. So it's got a lot of capacity for a short period. And so I put three of them together. They are 0.33 farad at 5.5 volts. So the three of them stuck together, as you can see if I pull them apart a bit, they're actually soldered together, back to back, like that, which makes, of course, about 16 volts, 16.5. These, when the locomotive goes over a bad bit of track or hiccups, should keep some of the power available, keep it running until they can charge back up and the locomotive will continue. On the end of these, I have gone focus, thank you, soldered, as you can see, a diode, a perfectly ordinary diode which costs nothing. You can buy these 100 at a time for a couple of quid. And a resistance there in parallel, and that goes to my positive side, which is there, and the other side is simply soldered straight to the end of the capacitor. Unfortunately, I have, believe it or not, in the old days, when these things first came out, the idea first came out, a lot of the larger DCC decoders like this one, you could actually manage to solder the two wires, the blue and the black wires, these two. You could actually manage to solder these on. I have done. They go down towards, there's a diode there, a little tiny one, you can't see it. But if you solder it on either side of that, then it does actually work. And I've got several running like that. Let's back out. My 29 here actually has got one in already, and it runs very well. So I thought, well, I don't like this, and I didn't like the one I did before, which you can't see because I lost the film. And so I'm going to take it out again and use it for something else. It's a good decoder, but it just doesn't seem to like this, and it hasn't got the two wires already on it. These are supplied with, they're not expensive, so I'm going to have a go with that. Obviously the 8-pin connector, I'm not going to buy a female connector, wire that in, plug this in. Once this thing's in, it stays in, that's it. Unless it blows up, in which case it's blown up. So I'm going to solder it in straight away, like this one is, straight to it, and that's the end of it. Even the socket these days, that I used to do that some years ago when DCC was new, but these days the socket itself, you're going to have to, with wires on, you're going to have to pay something like, you know, 5, 6, 10 quid. So it's ludicrous. You're adding on money for every time for something else that used to cost pennies in the old days. This is not even 10 years ago. In fact, I bought this Class 29 because it was very cheap. I was already well into DCC then. I hadn't got a 29, and I saw this one, which is very nice. It's in as good condition as this one is. You know, I got it because it was so cheap, and it runs very well, and it's a locomotive I hadn't got on my layout. You can get a modern 29 for well over £100, 150 quid. I paid for this one, I paid 30, and it runs, and it looks like a Class 29. Why would I bother? Anyway, enough ranting. Let's get this out of here with a soldering iron and get that extension off there. Put these out of the way. Turn that round. Let's get that out of there. Away. Come on, melt. Thank you. That's it. Get the blue tack and get that out. So that's gone. Now then, let's get that blue tack off there for a minute, because I found another way of doing that as well. I've been using blue tack for ages to stick things in because you can't see it, but it's not a very sexy way of doing it, is it? You know, something nice would be. And I found something this morning actually that I'm going to try. I've already done one little job with it, which I'll show you because it's something that's come out of the basket, and I'm quite pleased with it. Obviously this Stay Alive isn't going to stay like this. I'm going to put some heat sleeving over it, just hold it all together, because putting it in like that is guaranteed short circuit. So, and here we are with the new decoder soldered in. I've just tied a knot in these ones here because I'm going to put lights and things in these things later, I think. So we want to leave those intact. Basically you've got, if I get my pencil, the red wire soldered onto the original connector here. I'll just cut the wire off it and solder that on, bit of heat shrink. Same thing this end with the black wire. So that's the track, plus, minus. And the orange and the grey, orange and grey, go to the motor. Obviously, again, I've cut off the condenser that was in there, the anti-parasite thing, because it's just not necessary. They've got anti-parasite things in here, so we'll have this stuck on. These stuck on with this stuff actually. It's a kind of, it's peculiar stuff. It's supposed to be double-sided tape, but it's soft and it's really sticky. You can hardly cut it apart. I'm going to see if that works. Instead of blue text, it looks pretty. Let's put that. Oh, of course it's got a backing tape. You can't stick it on unless you hook the backing off, really. And I can't see it, so I'm going to get my, because shiny on shiny. Got it. No, I haven't. It's really sticky, this stuff. So that's one. That's got that off. Thing is, it looks like kind of jelly. It even sticks to your fingers. It's horrible stuff, but it really does stick. So there we are. They really are stuck down. You can get it off, but they really are nicely stuck down. Obviously, I've got to make sure that these wires don't go into the yes, don't go into these pinions, otherwise we'll chop them off. This side, of course, is okay because there's nothing there. And so on to the test track. Now I've got all that in there. Let's have a go. Here we go. Let's power on. That's got to go off the end. No, it isn't. So you can see it runs really nice and slowly. I'm going to get some buffers on this thing. Ah, there's a dirty bit of track there. There we are. I think slower than that's not really possible. Well, I've been back and looked at the footage I have left, what I lost and this, that and the other, specifically to do with the transformation of this locomotive. It is finished. The decoder is in the tender, just. And I'm not going to take it to pieces again to go into that, and I can't find enough decent footage that isn't cut to ribbons by the SD card. So what I'm going to do to finish is just have some of the running footage I did with the 29 and the St. David. So I'll just, no sound, no commentary, well sound but no commentary. And this one is sitting here because I've been playing with this. I've filmed this already as well. I haven't lost that. 51200, one of one of Hornby's little tanks, saddle tanks, and I've got DCC in that, which is, yeah, there's not much room in there either. And I've been modifying it a bit and removing that terrible spring thing which holds the motor down, and changing the couplings. I've put a small one on the front and a small one on the back, and I'll show you how I did that. It looks reasonably neat. Show you that in the next episode, if you will. So on to the running of the 29 and St David with some carriages on my layout, and thank you for watching and goodbye.